Two. Hi, alchemists. Welcome and welcome back, or welcome back. My name is Ava, aka Queen Midas Life Alchemist. I'm here again with Joel Schaefer from Perceiver on YouTube. I will have his channel linked below. And if you have not seen our last video that actually dropped this week, or actually by the time that this airs, it will have been last week, but please go back and watch that because we discussed the concept of hell. Today we are back for another tribe talk discussing the concept of heaven. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and get started. Joel, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. How are you, sweetie?
I'm well, thank you. I here in Texas, so this is gonna be really kind of silly, but I'm gonna talk about the weather, which is so dumb. But the past 2 days, we had a nice little pop of fall weather, which is, I love fall weather, but I'm like, give me the triple digit heat too. Like, that's what I really want. But like the break of fall is nice. So there was like 2 days of fall and it went back to 88 today. And I was like, oh, thank God. But
Totally.
yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're getting that sun. I'm glad
Yeah.
you got a little break and totally. I'm heading into like 8 months of rain. We get amazing summers up here, but then Seattle gets pretty wet. So, but that's what makes it so green and the snowboarding's amazing. And so
That's beautiful. I don't know why I thought you were in California. Like I had this in my mind that you were in California.
I'm up in the Pacific Northwest, but I used to live in Tahoe. I used to live all over. I've been in a lot of snowboard towns because I do timber framing. So the big old school European stuff. So mansions for super wealthy people. And so I lived in Tahoe and um, Telluride, Colorado, Aspen, Colorado, like places like that.
Awesome. Oh man, I love Colorado. Okay, so, and everybody, like I said, I'm going to, what are my words? I don't know why I can't find my words. Put Joel's links down below. I don't know if I put your website in the last video.
Yeah, I'm actually working on one. It's just so what you have is just all they need: YouTube and Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, cool. All right, y'all. So let's talk about heaven. And I have been finding so much like gold in this book, and I've been using it. This is, like I said before, this is from the mentoring program that I'm in, and I've used it for like a couple of my series already. But A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles by Marianne Williamson. I'll link this below as well, but there's just so much beauty in this book. And I wanted to start out with a couple quotes from the chapter that's actually titled Heaven. It's the last chapter. Page 271. Heaven is a decision I must make. And then there's another quote that says, heaven is here, there is nowhere else. Heaven is now, there is no other time. So let's talk about that, talking about how heaven is a decision. It's ultimately like we choose to show up this way or show up that way, and either get this result and go into this cycle, or get that result and go into that cycle. For instance, depression and anxiety are a huge issue in not only the Western world. Well, I don't know about the Eastern world, but probably more so the Western world. And anxiety is really just somebody focusing and living in the future and fear of the future. And then depression would be somebody living in and marinating on the past. So with heaven being here and nowhere else, and then now and no other time, that leads to presence being the answer, right?
Yeah, the eternal now being eternity. And if eternity is the infinite, right? So if you can have an eternal experience, something that transcends the linear, takes you out of the tracking of time, then real silence is accessible, and then all is revealed. The longer you can stay in that, but that takes training to get to the places where you can handle that much affection without thinking.
Yeah.
So it's okay wherever we're at. If you have trauma, if people have trauma and they're thinking that You know, so I would adjust what you're saying a little bit. It is decisions, but it's also your blueprint. Your decisions are based on what you were given, right? And so some people are just, rather than us be like, because that can create guilt and shame, is to think, oh, I made a bad decision. Our
Yes.
decisions are products of the unresolved trauma unless we resolve it. And so if we do the work, which some people it's too intense to do, and so they need a longer duration of time to get toward it. But in reality, an impeccable being is one that listens and doesn't get caught in disciplines or things that are based on how others see them, right? Because we're all unique. So experiencing eternity is so profound that it changes you forever. And then once you've been humbled by how beautiful and sort of untouchable it is, it's just a glimpse. It expands your perception so completely that you discover your resiliency zone, your capacity for energy to move through you. In order to have a moment with eternity of that nature, one would have healed a lot of things already, and their chakra line was prepared. But that glimpse prepares you for death. So death and eternity are linked. We all get a glimpse of this heaven that is beyond, because yes, heaven is here if you can discover it. And if you can live in the present, then you are the present. You've received the present. But there are other layers of the onion, like we talked last time. And so according to Toltecs, when we die, we all enter into what is called the third attention, where you merge with all things. You are no longer disconnected. You discover your connectedness, and you're not separated from it. You can become the tree. You can become the planet. Or the plane. You can become the system that you were born from or born into, because you are a drop in the ocean, and therefore you are the ocean. And that discovery is made typically at our dying, unless we've gotten caught and we're not able to cross. So heaven is a real, I mean, there's also layers of the onion that would appear to be like heaven-like realms, but they're actually traps. There's lots of traps out there in this world, even in the other layers of the onion. So a sorcerer, a shaman, a dreamer, one that transcends and moves beyond the limitations of this perception, wants to become very mature and impeccable, so that they're not easily seduced in the dream world, so that they can tell the difference between freedom and a made-up world that's pretending to offer you things, right? Because the old ones would say that these beings you meet, they'll offer you anything in order for you to come to their world. They'll offer you power in this world. So we're actually dealing with sorcerers that have made deals with these beings who are manipulating humanity, because they're borrowing from these other layers. And so to be aware of the spiritual war that exists without getting caught in it, right? And so a shaman learns all the tricks of shamanic arts, but then he or she lets them go and pursues just the freedom of perception, because otherwise you get caught in the spiritual battle, you get caught in the warfare. And so heaven for me is when your luminosity has risen up around the peak of your crown. If you can keep your energy up and you're not being, you figure out how to maintain these state of heightened awareness, then, and so like they say Samson and Delilah, like Delilah cut Samson's hair. That's her taking his ejaculation. That's cutting the crown.
Oh, yes.
That's taking the power from the man. And I'm not saying that men and women shouldn't have what's called gray tantra, where you do ejaculate, but there's white, gray, and black tantra, right, in the old system. And the white tantra people are truly attempting to not ejaculate at all as a man, because that's what allows your crown to stay intact. But I've worked with shamans where because of their celibacy, that sexual energy turned on them because they hadn't dealt with their shadow. So it's actually a really delicate dance. We don't want to repress energy, whether it's anger or desire. You know, the most tricky thing you can do is deny yourself something, because you're making it into something more powerful than it is. And so there's a much softer, more gentle way to transition from the hypnosis that we're in toward the evolution that we long for. And a lot of people, it's very black and white, good and bad. But if we can break out of that, then we won't be above or below anyone or anything. And we'll be able to be one in the oneness, along with this incredible perspective that when you see somebody, even if they're lashing out, you have this incredible compassion for the fact that their perception has gone into a place of confusion. Because shamans observe that along the outside of our luminous cocoon, there's another sphere of light, and it moves around, and when it moves, it determines the way in which we experience our reality. So a lot of people have had trauma that has moved their perception, and they no longer have access to what comes natural for you and I. They are now dealing with an even deeper form of intensity than, if you see people on the streets and things are tugging on them, and they feel like you can tell they're talking to something. There actually are. So unfortunately, modern medicine doesn't acknowledge the other layers of the onion. Otherwise, we would have a holistic system in which we could heal. Yeah. And so heaven and hell are really can be being experienced simultaneously. One person right in front of you can be in hell while you're in absolute heaven. Exactly. And that exchange can be really powerful, looking into their eyes while they're looking into yours. It's like, for shamans, only people they relate to are the schizophrenic people on the street, because at least they can see energy. Yeah. And so this is an energetic world. We come in with a lot of energy, and then we are tricked into giving it away, to just handing it over based on the natural human behavior that we adopt by observing those around us. And so we are being trained by our family, usually whoever raises us. We're being trained in basically what shamans would call the dark magic, the phantom world, the slavery realm. And so our potential to break free of this hypnosis is our means to unbind from the slavery phantom world. And so that is a heavenly thing. That is the liberation of the chakra line is heaven. When your breath is moving through you, when you can feel wind move through your chakra line because you've emptied yourself. A Kundalini awakening, the whole thing, when you're ready, when you can handle that much intensity, it heals and resolves your nervous system. It brings clarity. You stop the world and you get to really reassess your life. And so because you and I and all of us are caught in this linear realm, unless we can learn how to stop and actually just be, which is the not doings, there's all these ways in which one can trick themselves into achieving these little states of eternity, little glimpses that will add up. And the longer, when these moments happen to you or the audience, the slightest, like, really don't be afraid to really honor those moments, because the universe is communicative. It receives your gratitude, and it extends itself further based on that. Your appreciation makes your channels open so that you can receive even more support.
Yeah.
But when these moments happen, we can tend to be so in desire of them happening again that we can actually get really caught in trying to make it happen, where that's where drug addiction or like things can, a person can then try to recreate that system, or they get addicted to going to sweat lodges all the time, and it's like they can't feel good unless they're doing certain things. And we want to just be at peace with where we're at rather than get caught in this idea that we have to keep living in these incredible states of perception. It's okay, they're meant to come, and so you can integrate them, and then they'll build, and then eventually you can start to have more sustainable access to these things, but not in a if it's in a desperate way. You're like, oh, the matrix is scary, I only want these highs. Then you'll create a monster in the and you'll be running from something rather than walking toward it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. You actually touched on you answered one question, and then you touched on something else that I want to bring up. So you mentioned Kundalini being, tell me if I'm saying this the right way, but essentially like us, so much energy and connection happening within our centers that we're accessing heaven. Or I don't know if I'm saying that the right way. And then I have another question beyond that. So
yeah, I mean, it's a ladder. It's a very real thing to be able to observe your sexual energy rise within your being and interact with it in a sort of in a psychedelic way. And in that ecstasy that is accessible typically for people, sometimes it's only experienced through the physical act of sex, but there's another way of running that energy that will liberate your dreaming, because sexual energy and dreaming energy are the same. They are the same, right? So shamans have to be very careful about their sexual energy, and they take breaks, and they really come to terms with and assess how their decisions are made based on their sexual drive, and how to really heal all their projections and fears and feelings of inadequacy. And so you want to step into your power, and you want to be confident. So you don't want to avoid facing a powerful partner. You want to find somebody that can challenge you, and that is that can match your power. And it won't feel balanced unless it is. It doesn't mean it has to be across the board. There's going to be parts to this person that are out of balance where you are balanced, but that's always in place so that you guys can grow together, right? And the most beautiful thing that can happen is that, like we talked before, the tribe of man and the tribe of woman can meet and grow and evolve and support and move to these really dynamic dreaming states that are also sexual. And so it's riding a very fine line and being, learning how to sort of tame that energy, how to have a more creative relationship with it, and it will rise. It doesn't have to be with a partner that your Kundalini awakening would occur. Mine happened through the art of recapitulating. I got so focused on healing my past that I was able to access my power from my past, which is my sexual energy. It's all the same thing. We are creatures of, that's how we were created. And so it's really not just, it's just energy. Anyways, it's truly, for each person, it's different. It's the most, for somebody who is able to reach lots of silence while it's happening, it's just so beautiful. Other people end up in a mental ward from, they go to a doctor and say, I need you to make this stop, right? Because they weren't ready. And but everything happens for a reason. So that was their challenge that the creator offered them, is this opportunity to have that experience and heal from it, and then have that perspective. And so it's all okay. It's so personal. It's hard. Kundalini is a hard thing to sort of describe, but I think it's confronting for people to realize that we can tap heaven. And so when you are open to receiving the concept that like reading Castaneda books really helps you come to terms with, wow, like I haven't even scratched the surface of what an individual can achieve. And so as confronting as that is, it stirs up your animal body. It makes you want to have some access to some of that power that you're reading about. And we tend to focus on fulfilling our desire through food and sex and music. And when one reaches silence, you no longer are seeking others. You're actually avoiding people because you're so thankful that you've achieved this rare place. And so it's this level of aloneness that allows one to then use that Kundalini energy to travel into other glimpses of eternity. And when you learn to build that energy and use it for dancing, or if you're with a partner and instead of, being driven toward the physical act, you learned how to build that energy and then play with it in very creative ways that will reveal to you so much about your connection. And you'll see energy in ways that because dual dreaming, or even more people, like shamans try to form a party of at least 16 people in order to hold a line of view, a perception, right? So dreaming, people that do ayahuasca or people that are able to reach these states without drugs discover that energy is real because they validate each other's discoveries. They see the same vision, they're told the same thing in these vision states. Kundalini energy allows one to have the energy to travel. It's like jet fuel. And there are other, and it's not like travel to the celestial bodies. It's travel, I mean, you could, but traveling just into different layers of the Earth Mother's onion, in which she unveils different incredible scenes that are so beautiful that you just pop back out, like you get thrown right back into this world, because it's just overwhelmingly it's more than you've ever been able to, it's just beyond words. And so it takes being mature and resilient, be able to be sober enough to handle these jolts. So learning to play with Kundalini energy allows one to get very clear about what they want, because you start to realize, okay, if I'm living this way, I get to play with this energy. But if I start to live this way, this energy starts to shift. And so it's not about rules. It's about your own experiment with your own being. And so I had a lot of people say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. I went out and proved them wrong. I could do that, and I can keep my energy. Don't curse me with your projected bullshit about how this is supposed to go. I respect your tradition, but we're here to transcend tradition now. We're in a new time, and the fact that we got in this situation means that we need to let go of everything of the past. Doesn't mean that we can't use it and borrow from it, but this is my life. I take it very I don't take it for granted at all. I don't expect there to be another one. I don't look at it like, oh, I'll just do it another time. To me, it's all in. Like, even if there is another life, which I believe there are, we don't remember them, and so it's might as well not be one.
Yeah.
This is the one. This is where, and even if you only got a, you're in your elder years, and reaching eternity is accessible, and it transcends time, and so there's no need to be at odds with the life that you've lived. Once you recapitulate and you go back into your memories and you realize that mechanism is accessible to be able to travel back in time like that, then you a day of doing that work, once it happens to you, is like a lifetime. And so when people get old, they feel this sting and they don't know how to act on it. They feel like they've missed out, that they didn't use their time. And rather than pretend that's not going on, I want to triple down on that and acknowledge that that's where all the most powerful poetry comes from, is people that are expressing this deep longing that they missed out, because we are missing out on heaven. It's here, and we're distracted about, who's gonna win the game or who's gonna win the battles, or instead of really getting to know ourselves. And so it's through that self-discovery, that Kundalini, all those, that deeper work, where you come out of the shallow end of the pool and you go into the depths. Nobody's going to see you down there. You're just down there, but you're discovering that there's an entire other way of life, and most people are going to stay on the shallow pool, and it's just stagnant. And eventually your spirit hopefully has the courage to really start to spend more and more time away from that stagnant energy, because then you will abstract yourself. You'll have access to feelings that you didn't even know were possible, but you got to spend enough time cultivating a life outside of the social power. So you start to step into actual power, which is confronting too.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you use the pool reference. Immediately it made me think about the story. Well, it's not a story. It's been shown, like I don't know if it was a research team or James Cameron, the director. Maybe it was him, who was in a sub and went like really far down. I don't think it was him. Somebody went really far down in the ocean and got to a point where they like bounced up because the salinity of the water changed, and there was another layer of water underneath.
I did see
that they couldn't get into. But that just made me think of like the people who are those brave souls that are like, I'm gonna see what's in that pool, that like it's there's resistance there, but I'm still gonna go in. And that's what it made me think about.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Okay, that was just brilliant what you were sharing. Okay, I love that Kundalini, again, that it came up. There are a couple questions that I have around that. So first I'm going to ask, is bliss the peak point of Kundalini rising? Like once the energy gets to the crown? And
so
how would you describe bliss in relation to that?
Well, there's a great movie called Bliss that's about Tantra.
Oh, okay.
Since you brought up that word. And yeah, it's a very powerful kind of breakdown of what it would be like to have guidance. It's kind of like a teacher-student thing. It's a trippy movie. Helped me gain some like, because it's, sex is incredible. It's a trippy dance to figure out how to, yeah, all of it, man. It's working with a woman that is powerful. I'm fortunate that my wife doesn't go into any sort of like expected, it's very much like she's so sensitive that there's just so much reverence for even the idea of even opening that door. And when you become when you become aware like that of how powerful it is, and that it is an exchange of power when you're with someone, then you start to discover a level of respect for sexual energy that allows you to, yes, build that energy up to the crown, and then learn how to just let it stay there, so that it doesn't. So like when you're doing breath work and you're spiraling energy up, it can peak out of the crown and then waterfall over.
Mm-hmm.
You can also learn to just peak it up and then let it kind of hang out up here while you're just controlling the breath. And you'll feel this ability to, just your imagination and your creativity show up in new ways, and it teaches you how to celebrate that. Like, this is shamans or perceivers of energy celebrate their discoveries. It's so beautiful. It's so liberating to move stagnant energy. And there's always more stagnant energy to move. So there's no mastering this. Just like certain martial arts, they're infinite. You always be a student, and the teachers are students too. They discovered something that has been channeled, that eternity has revealed to them, and they're all tapping it. And that's what we want to find, is a path of heart, a path of something to embrace that is alive and that is communicative, that is an art form. It could be anything. It's each person's unique. For some people it's running, some people it's rowing. It's whatever it is for you. And rather than be embarrassed about your passion for it, I recommend doing whatever you're called to do as much as possible, so that you know why, and it will reveal things. But the Kundalini energy, when you learn how to kind of manipulate it, learn how to like cheat, it's like you're cheating a little bit. You're like, it's not something, it's so personal. That's why it's hard to talk about, because it's your power, and it wants to be discovered by you, right? It's like a part of you that is been dormant, where in a different situation, in a different timeline, it would have been cultivated, and we would be taught about this stuff rather than indoctrinated in these school systems that are in, it'd be like we would be learning all these arts, the dreaming arts, the how to, and so I recommend people just get their breath work dialed in. And I mean, like, where it's doing it on its own, where you get to the place where your body takes over and it knows how to operate in the most pristine manner. It will reveal that to you. And then, yes, the bliss is, it's ecstasy, right? You ever,
That's one word I was going to ask about too. Okay.
it really is. And there's nothing, our chakra line is designed to be experiencing ecstasy all the time. We are designed to be ecstatically engaged with purpose and power.
I love that.
And as I said last time, though, we are domesticated. And so our chakra lines have literally been interfered with. Every chakra should have a healthy vortex. But some people's chakras are not, and everyone has one of their chakras that's being interfered with by this archonic force. And so that's a very disturbing thing to come to terms with. Thus, the Toltecs designed what's called the warrior's path. And it's a means to gather your energy from your past and reach levels of silence that will allow you to see, so that you can move past, so that you can utilize dreams in a magical way. Dreams are meant to be, there's some tricks in dreaming. You go to sleep in one dream laying on your left side, then you wake up in a dream and you go to sleep again on your left side, and you wake up in a dream and then you go to sleep again. If you can keep doing that, you'll get to layers of worlds that are more real than this one.
Wow.
This is a projected phantom world. We are in a holographic simulated experience, and to a degree the future is already determined. So this isn't about you saving the world, this is about you saving you. You are the universe, you are the world, right? And when you respect yourself like that and you realize that you're just allowing things to distract you from that, and you start to reclaim all your light and all your power and go inward to really heal, right? Because the tears and the laughter that come when you have these breakthroughs with your chakra line, there's nothing like it, right? And so we know how to heal. It's through ecstatic experience. The more joy that happens to me, it turns into sadness, because they're both the same. Like my being finally gets to like, it just, I'm stopped and I'm forced to process this incredible energy moving through me, and it comes out in like joyful sadness. And that's how I know I'm being healed. That's how it's the relief, the feeling, the stagnant energy moving. And so Kundalini and stagnant energy are kind of the two things to come to terms with. Is like, are you willing to live with the stagnant energy? And if not, let's find a method for you, a formula for each person that is effective at making sure that you face these things now rather than on your deathbed.
Awesome. Okay, so that actually leads me right into the next question that I had here, about ecstasy, or excuse me, about bliss and holding the energy up in, I guess essentially our crown area. Okay, and then I wanted to tie that into something you said earlier about sharing with a partner in like building that, I'm guessing, sexual tension without actually, I almost said committing the act, like it's a crime, without actually, performing the act. And essentially like cultivating this energy bubble, I'm guessing.
Totally.
And and learning new things about ourselves within that. So I'm wondering, like, what I was kind of picturing and exploring is, I mean, if sex equals creation and sexual energy would equal creative energy, then I'm thinking like art, music, to people dreaming together and manifesting the life that they want to live together, and just being so like-minded and creating this like thought, not thought, but like energetic reality that they can essentially like ride and move into, I guess. I don't know.
That's beautiful, and it's that simple. And yet you might be assigned a partner where it's going to take 20 years to do that. And if you're at peace with that and you get vision of it, then it's good. It doesn't have to all of a sudden be where you're this power couple that's figuring out how to create this. It's going to be like, it's going to test every aspect of your being to find somebody that you could do that kind of work. You're going to be prepared by the world will teach you all the lessons that you need in order for that to happen. But it also is as simple as when both of you are ready to learn about intent. And intent isn't trying, and intent isn't doing either. Intent is a very strange and mysterious force that most people don't actually know how to harness, because it's not a knowing, it's a do, it's like it's experience, right? Shamans say there is no God, there's only intent. It's that powerful, that word itself is everything, that we are intent. And so shamans go into a dark closet, light a candle, and speak the word intent over,
that's right,
over and over until they are that force. But most people wouldn't do that until they already started to have access to it, because intent is like getting out of the way. You get out of the way to allow something to happen for you, because you're not attached to outcome.
Yes.
If you're not attached, then the universe can do all this magic for you right in front of your eyes with you and your partner. If you're listening rather than thinking about what you're going to say, or projecting into the future, or reliving the past, if you really are in the moment, because building all that energy up, especially, it will surface stuff. And so learning to dance together, basically, dance of power, right? Like, we are here to get to know our body. We manifested a physical world, and so we want to take care of this physical structure and get to know it intimately and what it can do and can't do. And we want to learn about our ability to access pleasure, access dreaming, access intent. And two people, when there's stages to this, right? Because if you lose too many shields too fast, then you're going to witness things and experience things you're not ready for. And so there's these kind of more, there's shamanic versions of what you're talking about, and then there's just more average person versions. And it's okay to do whatever you're called to, but we'll always be longing for the abstract. And so social power, I know a lot of power couples who are playing with a lot of cool stuff, but they are entangled in social power because they are looking for that feedback from others. It's still, you really have to get to the place where you truly don't care what people think about you in order to do what the shamans do. And I'm not saying people should do that. It's nothing like being that free, that you're truly listening and you're only doing things that resonate. But because we're playing with such a powerful energy, Kundalini can cause challenges for people rather than it be liberating. It isn't just that that energy gets up in the crown. It's just the act of not letting it fully spill over. And so it's actually from your root chakra all the way up is just full, and you're keeping it there rather than recycling it as a means to understand the resiliency. And eventually you let it cascade and keep going. But the trick is to be able to, so shamans discover that their body is designed to do specific movements to balance their nervous system. So once you unlock the power of Tai Chi and Qigong and magical passes, then your body, when you have a lot of energy, it's pretty much constantly making adjustments. So I'm constantly moving in very unique ways in order to liberate any stagnant energy at all. so that it doesn't accumulate, because my body knows what to do innately.
Yeah.
I've been playing with that for so long now that I don't even have to do much at all. But for a long time, in order to get here, I had to do it for long periods of time to reach these trance states. But the body knows exactly what to do, not only in how to move, but how to walk in the dark at night, it feels and is very sensitive. But if we're talking to ourselves, we're going to run into a tree, if out in the middle of the woods. But if you are really feeling everything with your will, with your power, right? For a woman, it's essentially, she's with her womb, she can perceive the world. Men, it's very different. And so accessing your ability to feel and know what your body needs, and giving yourself permission to shake the energy out when you need it to move rather than let it build, will guide you toward knowing how to creatively interact with the Kundalini. The movements that shamans do are so powerful that you can literally open a door and step into another world just through having accessed all the when you're no longer limiting yourself or concerned about what might happen. And I'm not there. I'm not. It is something that I'm aware that as it starts to happen, there's a panic in my body, and I get jolted from I'm just being told it's okay, this will take a long time to be able to do it. But just playing with it allows me to understand how sexual energy can be used to travel, knowing that it's a more valuable currency than money. And so this material world is very entrapping, because the power couple, they're going to need to get through this life, so they're going to need money, but finding work-life balance so that the money doesn't change you, right? You would look back and wish you had stayed poor if the money changed you and took away your path of heart, because that security can screw you up, right? When a person feels secure, then they're not in a warrior state, in a sense. And so it's a tricky dance. You do want to relax and finally heal and be like, I don't need to be suffering and surviving it, and it's good to heal. I'm not saying that money isn't helpful. It is, because you can stop working, take your breaks, do your things. You can change your life if you have that option. You can follow your passion rather than be stuck in a job that you hate. But shamans say money is the heaviest energy there is, and we have to become light. And there are shamans that have plenty of money, but they figured out how to not let it limit their access to their true power.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So with money being the heaviest energy, and oh man, I just lost where I was going with that. Well, it makes sense that like this realm, we're controlled by it, or
Yeah.
I'm going to change my language. It's programmed to be a control factor. So that makes sense, keeping us heavy. Okay, so I wrote this down from the book as well, and this is kind of a shift, but it's also playing off of what we've been talking about with essentially sex and or like sex with another person, or just experiencing Kundalini on our own as a way to access heavenly realms.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shift into the healing of like the mindset in order to be able to get to that state where we're able to heal our energy centers. So the ego is set up to resist our positive thinking and to guilt and shame us. This is where I was going, guilt and shame us from our abundance, from wealth, health, love, which is you were talking about money and power couples and not having that safety net and not essentially losing who they are in that. And still remembering how they got there and not moving out of the warrior mentality. With the shame and the guilt, I lost myself. Hold on. The shamans. So you said there are many shamans who have a lot of money, essentially, and they're able to operate and keep that balance there. This reminds me of in religion how that whole area of money, abundance, wealth, healing, humility gets kind of muddied, and we're taught in churches that in order to live a spiritual life or to be on the holy path, we have to be deprive ourselves of earthly pleasures or money and security. Essentially, it's like so many like jabs at root chakra stuff that we need in order to feel like we're allowed to exist here and heal and be healthy, and access heaven ultimately, because it's like it's literally attacking the base, which is where all of that gathers and grounds us to shoot up. That's so mind-blowingly like disgusting to even think about. Like people go to church to be saved and healed and all that stuff, and that's like, I'm not saying that's the only place that is pumping out that acidity, but it's like the direct opposite, because it's like we're gonna beat you down in the base where you need it to start to access heaven. Crazy. The ego also doesn't want us to claim our natural inheritance, which is not money, it's not wealth, it is reclaiming our power and our divinity and our access to heaven and knowing who we are. And when you were talking about the recycling, I guess like the different phases of energy, I drew this picture because I was thinking of different points and what it means or could mean with us learning our power. So with the energy rising from our base chakra to our crown chakra, that's essentially like us regaining and like recharging and healing and restabilizing and everything. And then when you were discussing holding the energy there, I was thinking of that as phase 2, where we're like learning our power and holding it there and getting to know it and get acquainted with it. And then when we get to the point where we're ready to recycle it, that's like we're ready to use our power, like the third phase of that. And then it's like you should like this cycle. So I drew a picture because I was like, this is really interesting.
No, that's really good. Yeah, it's very much that way. And these discoveries, when they're just, when we make them on our own, because yes, the money thing, like you're right, people are the pressure that is put in these curses for us to basically hand our power over to somebody like a priest and say, you're the one that can talk to God, so please tell me. That's such a well done means for us to be separate from source, or this idea that you would have to go into a building, or that you would separate yourself from nature to go and meet God. And so our abundance is infinite, and that there is no problem with you coming up on every level, right, and celebrating this existence and having as much fun in this world as you can. But there's also a benefit to what the Sufis do, which is they walk away from all material things for a period of their life in order to know about how that feels and how detached they become, but that can be a trap. They can get stuck there and never, and then they look at anybody who's carrying a cell phone or any of these things as if they're, they've been deceived. And to a point, from their perception, it kind of is that you see all these people that are being tracked and they're walking around, and you've walked away from earthly possessions. So following our hearts and finding that formula that's going to make the most sense. To me, what's on the line is our lucid dreaming. If the money is keeping you from being lucid, or if the relationship that you're in is keeping you from being lucid, or if the lack of money is what's keeping you from being lucid because you're so stressed, or you're having to work so much, or whatever it is. And so that's the gauge. It's pretty simple. Are you experiencing, are you inspired? Are you passionate? Are you feeling expansive? And are you able to give yourself permission to access your passion so that it's being used across the board? And so there are some people stay in a job their whole life when they could have just walked away the first day and found one that would have fit, that would have accessed all their passion. We get pigeonholed and trapped, and it is scary to do things outside of the norm, but the universe really lends us energy when we discover the courage and the trust to walk away from a marriage where they're hanging the money over. The carrot is the money. Because a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, if I walk away, I'm going to lose all this, and this whole sellout life, it's really, one day could change your life. And that if you keep waiting and you're not listening, you might kind of miss the window. And that's impeccability, is really coming to terms with things and getting to the place where you realize that every decision, every little thing matters. Every little thing affects you. And that can be a little scary, so we don't want to get obsessed about it, because at the same time, nothing matters at all. It's all okay. Whatever happens, we're just energy. We're eternal. We're in a play. Hopefully we find the humor. Hopefully we see the beauty, and that we become lucid like children. As a kid, from 0 to 4, you were tripping out. You were seeing energy. You were dreaming so intensely every night. And you have the right to go back and access those feelings, all of them, every single one. And when you do that, your priorities shift so much, and you become attracted to people who are attracted to similar things. And then the universe will assign you people to work with, and it'll be really strong. You'll see the signs, and that's a whole journey in itself, because those signs will change. That person might change, and then you'll get signs to leave. That doesn't mean the signs weren't there to be with them the first time. It changed because they changed, because the story changed. You needed to go into that lesson and come out of it, and now you're different because of it. And so through forgiveness, we forgive ourselves. We automatically forgive everyone if we truly forgive ourselves. But usually it's sort of not as authentic as we're ready for. So there's stages to these forgiveness pieces, where we truly energetically get people out of our field and clear cord cuttings, but on a bigger level, that you can truly forgive, because you're no longer entangled. You're still entangled energetically, even if it's an old thing. It's hard to really forgive when you're dealing with the repercussions of the trauma that occurred between the two of you. So just being honest and not spiritually bypassing, and getting the tortoise always wins the race over the hare because it goes slow and it deals with every step and it doesn't run ahead and get excited and think that it's going to win. And so if you and I and everyone can just honor that, the slowness actually is faster. It's funny.
You you are so awesome because you always lead right into what I was going to talk about next.
Well, that's a good sign.
It's awesome. I was going to talk about being in touch with negative feelings, because, and I talk about this a lot. And when I say being in touch with negative feelings, it's being mindful of triggers, being mindful of things that piss us off, things that hurt us, things that any emotion that might be deemed as negative, sadness, anger, grief, pain, whatever, sorrow. I honestly feel like, this is coming to me now, emotions might just be markers to teach us why we're responding to certain things in a certain way. And like, for instance, if I'm happy when I'm dancing or running, then the lesson there for me is that I love to dance and run and I feel free in it and I get into a meditative state and blah, 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 or if I'm like, if interaction with a certain person just like really aggravates me, there's a lesson in that as well. And it's something to look at within myself. And that's a beautiful thing. And triggers, somebody said triggers are essentially like roadmaps to our healing. And when we're able to be in touch and be authentic with our emotions, because a spiritual path is not all about cotton candy, rainbows, and cakewalks, but like you were talking about earlier, how I think you were talking about earlier how some people just want to ignore that we're in a 3D world and only be in the spiritual realm, and that's not realistic because we are here in a 3D realm and we are having a human experience. We can't separate the two.
For a reason.
Yeah, so when we're being authentic with how we're feeling in every way, and those negative emotions or triggers or whatever, or traumas, fears, whatever are coming up, because it's time for us to release them and heal and to essentially return and rediscover the love beneath those feelings. And that's a beautiful thing. It's scary, and a healing path, a spiritual path is a path of for the courageous, for the brave, I don't know, the warrior's path, I guess. Like, it's like it's going into the darkness and only having like a match, and like sometimes the match might go out and you just got to step out in faith and like know that that step is going to just be like whoop, and like pop up and illuminate, like, right, because we moved in faith and in trust. And you said something earlier about moving in letting go of expectation, and I talk about that a lot too, because when we do that and we like think this has to happen this way, like I'm putting this manifestation out and this order out to an infinite universe, but it needs to happen this way, this way, and this way, according to my like pea brain, human brain. But I'm asking the infinite universe to like fill this tiny, it's like asking an elephant to like step into this cup or something, so we like create this resistance because we're like, it needs to happen this way, this time, at with the
yeah.
Where was I going with that?
Well, I can go off on what you said, so it's good stuff. Sadness is the most prevalent force in the universe. And so when a shaman opens himself up to the beauty of this world, they encounter a devastating sadness that almost takes them out. But it's so beautiful, though. It's the longing. It's like encountering the longing of God. It's like, and so to balance that, this ecstasy is necessary, right? We are designed to experience tremendous amounts of energy moving through us, whether it's sadness or joy. And so you're talking about the shadow work, and rather than running from the shadow, we turn and face the shadow and we honor it We honor all of the negative, because it's not negative. It's energy that needs to be tracked. It's stagnant feelings, unprocessed, unresolved. We are powerful in that we subconsciously hold on to things that limit us. We cling to them, to our story. We cling to the drama of, this person did this to me, or if my mom would have just fucking, whatever it is, that energy keeps us from taking responsibility for the feelings that exist. And people will fight tooth and nail to avoid their feelings. They will, you know, I accidentally almost pull people out of hypnosis sometimes by talking about things, and they almost attack. People aren't ready for certain concepts. It's so threatening to their being that they would be responsible for their own feelings.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking no therapy. People have never dealt with any of these ideas. They just live in a world in which whatever the news or whatever the Hollywood has programmed them to feel, that's about the limitation. There's not much else. And because they're not a mass murderer, or they tell themselves that, you know, like, we project and blame and criticize all this gang violence, or criticize even mass murderers, but those people are actually playing out the collective trauma because people aren't playing out their own. And because we're really one organism, we have to take responsibility not just for us, but for everyone. We extend compassion for all beings wherever they are, because they were hurt, and that's why they are hurting others. They're just passing the energy that got trapped in their chakra line on, because they don't know how to get it out any other way. That's why abusers abuse. It's literally stored in the same place in the chakra line, that then they go and do that act on to that person, to then, and they literally don't know how not to, because they discovered their power and realized, and it's a secret that they're abusing somebody usually, and that gives them something to be special in a world in which they're not. And so then the psychosis starts to cultivate, and they start to be told things by these memory demons, and it's a whole thing. And so, yeah, I'm not saying I would, you know, it's, you still have to have a healthy fucking boundary, you know. And if somebody touched my kids, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm pacifist. I'm saying that the only way we're going to transmute all that's happening is by doing it within our own being, so that we are no longer caught in this idea that we are separate. So it takes, it's a dance to get there, and that forgiveness is what when you truly forgive yourself and others, you'll feel the lightness that then extends to all creatures, all of their suffering. And the negative, stagnant energy, it feels impossible to get free of when it's taken over your life. And so people just go further into it. They just try to drink it away. They try to cover it up. They try to mask it. And the pain grows immensely.
Yeah.
And that's, rather than us feel pity for them, we acknowledge that that in this lifetime they're going through something intense, and they are giving us a front row seat at looking at what it's like. And through that reference, all the people in my life that have shown me how not to be, they were just as valuable as the people that showed me how to be.
Exactly.
And that's
Very,
how we move energy.
yes. Um, really cool. So I actually that led right into this quote that I found in A Return to Love. And I'm gonna read it. It's on page 273. This will be the last thing that I touch on really quickly, or that you can add to if you feel like you have something to say about it. But we were just talking about it. So anyway, it
Yeah.
says, people have focused on the crucifixion more than the resurrection.
Mm.
But crucifixion without the resurrection is a meaningless symbol. Crucifixion is the energy pattern of fear, the manifestation of a closed heart. Resurrection is the reversal of that pattern brought about by a shift in thought from fear to love.
Mm.
So when I read this, I was like, that is so beautiful. And it's so true. Because I think of the crucifixion, if we're talking about within a person,
Yeah.
maybe like a part of themselves that they've shut down and locked away and hidden or forgotten, because of some sort of trauma or whatever happened, and that leads to a closed heart. It leads to uh, energy blocks and shields put up and blind spots. But then the resurrection possibly could be diving back into that shadow and observing those spots, searching for the areas that were closed in energetically,
Wow.
asking for the help to be shown those areas, and then shifting that energy from low vibrational fear into high vibrational love, healing it, transmuting it. So
Well,
do you have anything to add to that?
yeah, I mean, if we each didn't go through some version of that, we wouldn't have any capacity or reference for how to assist others in what they're going through. Like we're here collectively to help each other, and there's no wisdom gained from just observing without going through it.
Yeah.
We're here to earn our rite of passage through um, the transmutation process. And when one is able to let go, having gone into their wound, and is able to process it and get honest and experience the emotion that wants to come out without blocking it, you know, that's that's changes your perspective on energy forever. Now you understand that emotion is real, that it can make you sick, that it can also make you free, right? It's motion, it's meant to move. And yeah, it's really cool what you said. There's so many things to the cross, the cross is as we raise our energy up, we cross and we make a journey into activating our pineal gland on a level that's more permanent. And so you're crossing over the hypothalamus, and you're making this, it's allegoric to
Excuse me.
having achieved the resurrection of the energy through moving past the crossing, or having bared the cross, and then being able to put it down.
Yeah.
Realize it's not yours to bear. And there's so many things that are connected when it comes to these allegoric projected storylines that are in our historical religious texts. They're so multidimensional. It doesn't mean that there wasn't a man named Jesus, or I'm not saying that everything's totally allegoric, but when you really decode these things, we live in a simulated, scripted realm in which everything is alive.
Yeah.
It's so well woven. It has so much to show us, and in every situation, we're always being provided with a pathway of power to access. Just depends on the courage of the individual to follow the signs, to listen to their heart, and to really be honest, so that they're not spinning their wheels pretending that they've dealt with something that they haven't, because that'll just make you constantly feel like I'm not going anywhere. It's okay to go back to whatever whatever it is that's undealt with, and deal with it. It's annoying and feels frustrating that I should be past this by now, but it's actually serving as a protection so that you don't get yourself in more trouble. It's pulling you, it's giving you the very detail and the rite of passage that's needed for the next challenge that's coming. And we do want increased challenges. This idea that we're going to just get over this hurdle and everything's going to be smooth is an expectation. But when you do have access to your power, things are fucking incredible, right? You stop letting anybody take from you your time, your energy, you're not easily distracted. You know what you're here to do. You start to really feel, you turn and face the things that are unresolved, as a method, as a warrior's task. And in doing so, you discover purpose, and there's nothing like having purpose. And people are trying to create purpose in this world. It's right in front of us. It's the inner work. Making peace with that, it just opens all the doors, and everything starts to get clear. And you realize, oh, thank God I didn't get what I asked for, because I wasn't ready. That's why, or whatever it is, whatever storylines we're playing out. There's always a solution to our situation. But like you said, the ego's like got blinders on, and it wants it to be, well, it's got to be this way. And being with a partner and watching them do that for years, and them watching you do the same, and you're trying to tell each other about it, but either of you can't even see it because that's your blind spot. That's okay. That means you're not, we're here to take that slow, long, powerful journey, and the parts that are dragging us, slowing us down, are not negative. Actually, they're just messages that our ancestors left us through traumatizing us by raising us in an unconscious world. And we make peace with that, take responsibility for it, and be the black sheep that heals the lineage.
Yep. Yeah, that's many of my subs for sure. As we've seen in the chats, like that we've gone into the black sheep stuff many times. Yeah, that was rich conversation.
For
So
sure.
thank you so much. And I always feel like our videos bring a lot of value to both of our platforms, because we dive into some stuff that's most people don't quite understand. And honestly, I'm still gaining my understanding of it, having broken from religion, and still really trying to get those concepts out of the way, but then figure out what I truly believe. So
Beautiful.
I really like that we have dived into heaven and hell, and just looking for truth in those terms.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
me too, Eva. It's so good to talk with you, and it's always interesting what comes up. It's I think we should keep doing it, and yeah, just keep coming up with new things to get into, because there's a lot there.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. And y'all, sorry for being so snivelly. I have to say this. So my ring light, like the setting that I have it on, gets really, really bright. And for some reason it makes my nose get tickly. And then yeah, so it's really weird. I'm not sick or anything. If anybody says anything in the chat, I'm not sick. It's my ring light. But anyway, it's so random, but gave a moment. All right, you all. Thank you so much, Joel, for being here again. I can't wait to have you back on again, and to have a chat with your wife, Rachel, as well, who I got to meet last time. Joel and I stopped recording, I got to meet his wife. So you all might be meeting her soon once we coordinate. But yeah, you are sovereign, powerful, worthy, and loved. Please remember that. Thank you so much, Joel. Again, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channels if you have not, and if you resonate with our content and our energy. And again, share this if you find that somebody you know might need to hear this message, or they might benefit from it or find value. It really helps our channels grow, and liking our videos helps the message to get in front of more people. So it's not about us individually, it's about getting the message out and getting truth out, and challenging people's mind and mental capacity. I mean, that's valuable these days. Let's be real. All right, you all. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you soon. Bye. Okay.